Good evening. Thank you for joining us and welcome to our first episode of BC Poly Live. For the next 3 weeks, every Tuesday night, we'll be discussing the BC election campaign, the promises and the issues live here on CHEK as we approach the big day, Decision Day, on the 24th. And we want you to join the conversation. Each show will be asking a question and we will be airing your responses live on the bottom of your screen. On Twitter, you can use the hashtag BCPoly to respond. You can also comment on Facebook where we are streaming live, or YouTube. And tonight we want to know, what is the #1 issue for you in this election? Is it COVID-19? Is it housing affordability? Maybe it's mental health. Maybe it's fixing ICBC, something we heard about from the campaign today. There are no bad answers. Comment online and let's hear what you have to say. I want to bring in our panelists tonight, two people who are covering this election campaign. In studio with me from the Vancouver Sun, legislative reporter and columnist Rob Shaw. Rob, you had a long day. Thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Also joining us tonight from the Oh Boy production studio in downtown Vancouver, from the Canadian Press, reporter Amy Smart, who is covering the campaign today but made time for us tonight. Amy, good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Joe. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks.
We are excited to have you. We couldn't have picked a better day to start this show, as the NDP this morning became the first party to roll out a full platform about 3 weeks in. Amy, let's start with you. For people who haven't had a chance to go over what was in that platform, I think that's a good place to start. What were some of the promises that were announced today? There were how many, Rob?
60 new promises.
60 new promises. What were some of those promises that stood out to you?
Yeah, Joe, today I think we saw a message from the NDP and the promises that they're banking on voters wanting to stay the course. A lot of the promises were either extensions, promises to continue work they'd already done, or returns of things like the renter rebate. We saw a freeze on rents until the end of next year, $10 a day daycare, the promise of a new medical school, the second in BC. But the big kind of showstopper today was a promise of, depending on a family's income, up to $1,000 in your pocket direct deposit as a recovery benefit, and $500 for single people.
Yeah, timing around that announcement, and that was the big one, that $1,000 check into British Columbians' pockets. Timing was a big issue because back on the 17th of September, that's when the NDP rolled out its economic recovery plan. And then 4 days later, we have this snap election. And then in the 2 weeks that followed, we have this new platform with this $1,000 check for British Columbians if you qualify. The Liberals are calling this a bribe. And a lot of people are wondering, look, if this is a good idea and a good plan, why was it in the initial economic recovery plan? Why did it take 2 weeks for this to come out?
It's a question incumbent governments face when they put out platforms is, if this was so great, why didn't you do it before? And the question that a lot of people will be having is, could I have used this $1,000 in my pocket 3 months ago, 4 months ago? Some of the promises that were in this platform, wouldn't they have helped people who were losing their businesses, who were struggling to pay their mortgages? And John Horgan did not look like he was ready for that question today. He didn't answer it particularly well. And he said, look, I mean, I didn't come up with these ideas until right when the election started. So that timeline you pointed out, that 4 days between Thursday when he as a government tables his recovery plan and Monday when he calls a snap election. Some sort of hallelujah moment occurs there, and suddenly he realizes $1,000 per household? People would really love that.
I saw the physical platform today, hundreds and hundreds of pages. Do you buy that in that 2 week stretch from the 21st until now, that entire platform was compiled in 2 weeks?
Not for a single second. No, we knew you could watch the New Democrats heading up to the point in which they called the snap vote. They were ready for it. They were preparing for it. They put their candidates in place as a government. They were laying the groundwork. This is the kind of thing, $1,000 per household, that probably should have been in an economic recovery plan, wasn't. A lot of people noticed that and wondered, where's the cash? And to see it now raises legitimate questions of, did the NDP hold on to some of these promises until they could drop them during an election to try and drum up votes? And it's a legitimate question. I was surprised the Premier had some struggles in answering.
A reminder, we want you to get involved tonight. We are asking you, what is the #1 election issue for you? And we are putting up some of your comments on the bottom of our screen. You can weigh in on Twitter. Use that hashtag BCPoly. Amy, where does this $1,000 benefit stack up for you in terms of what's been promised so far? A lot has been made about the Liberals' plan to scrap the PST for a year and then bring it down to 3% after that. In terms of winning votes, what do you think will resonate more with voters? The prospect of $1,000 in your bank account, that's going to be pretty welcome to a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say, honestly. I think $1,000 in your bank account right away is pretty noticeable. People will see that. The PST, you know, over the course of the year, people may notice it on every purchase they make for the eligible purchases. Maybe they'll just get used to it, though. I'm not sure. It's also a question of whether voters are paying attention to the cost. The PST brings in about $7 billion to government coffers. It's going to cost the coffers quite a bit, whereas this $1,000 is coming at $1.4 billion. During a pandemic, are people paying attention to how much money we're spending? I'm not sure.
Isn't it interesting? I mean, Amy's right, $7 billion for the PST promise, the single largest election promise I've seen in the last election, maybe even before that. We should be talking about the PST based on the dollar amount now. And the fact that we aren't shows that I think the Liberals failed to kind of follow up. They took a big swing at the PST, and then on the next day, they didn't really explain how does it benefit you. And the NDP were able to slide in and say, this is a yacht tax, which is not a yacht tax, but they were able to advance that idea, and they took the momentum away from the Liberals.
But there are still questions about where that PST reduction will be applied. I mean, we still don't know if it's, you know, food, blenders, a boat. We're still trying to figure that out. So as catchy as it is, there's still a lot of question marks around it.
Well, ask anyone who went through the HST, the difficulty in explaining to the public what PST and GST applies to and doesn't. Just you will never get there. And yes, it does help buy a new TV. It does help purchase some other items, but you're not paying PST on your rent or your groceries.
Right.
And even your restaurant meal, but you pay it on the alcohol at your restaurant meal. And it was difficult for the Liberals to explain the real benefit for the enormous cost that Amy mentioned. And it's kind of died, that promise. It's just very surprising.
Amy, how frustrating do you think it is for the Liberals right now? New polling out today from the Angus Reid Institute has the NDP holding a sizable lead. I think it was 49%, the Liberals at 31%, and the Greens at 14%. They keep on rolling out promises. They were the first party to roll out a big promise, the PST reduction, elimination, then reduction. It doesn't seem like they're gaining any ground in the polls right now. Then again, you know, you don't have to look too far back. 2013, the pollsters got it wrong. So I'm curious, how, I guess it's a two-part question. How frustrating do you think it is for the Liberals not making up any ground, and do you put any weight in the polls?
I mean, it can't be easy for them. I mean, they and the Greens are up against tough odds. It's a pandemic election. They're not able to connect necessarily with voters as easily as normal. You know, Jas Johal today said, he's the Liberal incumbent candidate in Richmond, Queensborough. He said he was asked about the PST, and he said, you know, people were expecting a bold promise, and we made a bold promise. And whether it's landing or not, we'll see at the polls. But in terms of the polling today, we're not seeing those results.
It was a day of promises, not just from the NDP. The Liberals saying today they'll open the auto insurance market to competition from private businesses. This would give drivers essentially a choice to purchase the best rate, whether it's from the private market or ICBC. The NDP, for the last 3.5 years, have said that they inherited, I wasn't going to use the words, but a dumpster fire, a mess from the Liberals. And now the Liberals are coming out saying, well, look, we're going to fix it now. So I'm curious, Rob, what's the justification for that? And should voters believe that this is the answer when they had a long time in power to figure it out?
Well, it's amazing that we're not talking about ICBC more. In February, this was probably going to be the defining issue, we thought, of the next election campaign. COVID hit, and here it is buried halfway through a campaign. It's difficult for the Liberals to really talk about it because they did siphon away so much money from ICBC, left it without any cushion, and have contributed to the poor financial states that it's in. The promise that they came up with today, which is allowing people in some cases to buy the insurance that allows you to continue to sue, or buy the insurance that will bring you under no fault under ICBC, is very similar to Saskatchewan. That has the same option, but only less than 1% of people in Saskatchewan bother to buy the insurance that lets them sue. And it's a little bit like, it's going to be very complicated to figure out how you would run two insurance systems, the Sue and the No Fault. It's like Ghostbusters, you cross the streams. How does it work? It does not turn out well to put a car with no fault and a car with lawsuits together and crash them.
Let's end this first segment talking about the BC Greens, a party that some believe are fighting for their political lives right now. They say they've been double-crossed by the NDP. This election isn't necessary. And now they're fighting to hold on to 2 seats. Today, a long list of promises from the Greens. We should go over some of them. Policies to support flexible work arrangements, talk of a 4-day work week, paid vacation and sick leave, universal early childhood education, and support for stay-at-home parents. Rob, I'll start with you. The Greens are fighting to hold on to those 2 seats. Do they have a chance? And if not, what does the future have in store for this party?
The Greens' best chance is the fact that Sonia Furstenau and Adam Olson are very popular local MLAs. Not necessarily that they're Greens, but that they're popular. And the Greens are in a very bad position right now. They were basically turned on by their NDP allies. They were left without the ability to appoint all the candidates. There's only 74 candidates out of 87 ridings, which is less than the last election.
Pretty good,
which is
though.
Still better than it could have been.
I was going to say pretty good.
Yeah, but they're stuck. They're stuck in the position of 2 juggernauts fighting, and they're trying to compete for attention and on a platform that's difficult to get attention for.
Some people are saying, Amy, just wait for the debates. Wait until Sonia Furstenau gets in there with John Horgan and Andrew Wilkinson. She'll hold her own and do very well and come across very well to the voters. Do you agree?
I think we'll have to see. A lot of people are saying the same about Andrew Wilkinson. Some of his closest advisors are saying, you know, just wait. He's a skilled debater. So I think there's a lot of talk that happens. I think it will be Sonia Furstenau's opportunity to introduce herself to a lot of people. She was only elected leader a week before the election was called. So she hasn't had that opportunity to build her profile beyond the people who know her already as a local MLA.
Let's take our first break. We could go all night. It's a 30-minute show, and we do have to take a couple commercial breaks. You're watching BC Poly Live. When we come back, a commentary from legendary Island columnist Jack Knox. I'm calling him legendary, but I think that's applicable to
He'd call himself legendary,
He would
too.
call himself legendary as well. Also, we will take a look at 2 key ridings and break them down for you when we come back.
Look up there. I said, that's you. Winner, $5 million.
I was kind of like, really?
And everybody starts screaming, and that's when my wife went into shock.
I don't know. It's still kind of surreal.
Winning Lotto 649, at times you think it'll never happen to me, but it's got to happen to somebody. So why can't it be me?
CHEK presents the Victoria Symphony performance of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. This presentation is made possible by Newport Realty, always a good sign, Ocean Wealth Group of PI Financial Corporation, and Lazy Boy Home Furnishings and Decor, Victoria, Nanaimo, Courtenay. The Victoria Symphony performs Vivaldi's Four Seasons, Sunday, October 18th at 7 p.m. on CHEK.
SAS Shoes, supporting people on their feet all day. Like Jenny the server, Victor the chef, Kayla the flight attendant. SAS Shoes are handmade to the highest standards, achieving all-day comfort and long-lasting wear. Choose from a huge variety of fashionable styles. They come in all widths and sizes, so you get a perfect fit. No matter where you go, your feet will look great and feel great.
Keep your feet happy
at SAS Comfort Shoes.
SAS Shoes Victoria, on Douglas near Mayfair.
More broken stuff? Sure, Mr. Smart Guy. We'll save a little bit of money. No need to check the Better Business Bureau. That's why they're cheaper. Nice wrap job.
Hendra Moving and Storage know your things are important. Professional trained staff wrap things the right way and carefully load their trucks like a work of art. And they have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau across the city or across the country. Move the smart way with Hendra Moving and Storage. 33 years and counting.
Welcome back to BC Poly Live. We've gone over some of the big promises made so far in this election. Now it's time to see how those promises will play out in a couple of key ridings. We've asked our panelists to highlight a riding that's on their radar, one to watch on election night. And we'll start with Rob, and a riding that saw the BC Greens win their first seat in the legislature. Oak Bay Gordon Head, Andrew Weaver, as most of our viewers will know, he is out, and we have a veteran politician hoping to be in. Break down this riding for us.
Yeah, I mean, this was ground zero for the Green Wave just a couple elections ago. Andrew Weaver becoming the first Green MLA. Oak Bay Gordon Head is an interesting riding because it is Oak Bay up through Saanich. It encompasses UVic, it encompasses Gordon Head, Camosun, so you have a diverse mixture of not just wealthy upper-class Oak Bay voters, but also students and middle-class families. The question that everyone is asking themselves about this riding is, did voters here vote for Andrew Weaver, the climate scientist, or the BC Greens? And what happens to them when they are now faced with a Green candidate who has a much lower profile in Nicole Duncan, who's a school board trustee? Does that Green vote carry to her? Or does the riding revert back to some of its previous trends? It was a social credit riding in the 80s, an NDP riding in the 90s, a Liberal riding in the 2000s, and then a Green riding in the 2010s. Where is the historic vote and where does it go?
One of the questions I had was, why is a former Victoria MP, who had a great job as the chair of Canada's National Security and Intelligence Review, why did he give all that up? Just to be back in provincial, not to take anything away from provincial politics, but it seemed like he was pretty comfortable.
Yeah, well, I guess the difference between being a backbench third-party MP for the NDP federally and a potential cabinet minister in a John Horgan government is a pretty big lure for Murray Rankin. Huge name recognition. It's going to be tough to find people in this riding who don't know him. But at the same time, there are some people who say maybe he's overstayed his welcome. So he's going to have to walk that line. I think he's got a pretty big advantage in this riding, though.
Can we get your prediction?
I have a feeling that this may go Murray Rankin, but the Liberals, Roxanne Helm, she's a lawyer who was on the Victoria School Board. She feels like this is a traditional Liberal riding, and she's counting on some of those votes to go from the Greens back home to the Liberals.
All right, Rob, thank you very much. That is Oak Bay Gordon Head. Now to the Lower Mainland, and one of the key battlegrounds in this election. There are 9 ridings up for grabs in Surrey. 3 are held by the Liberals, 6 by the NDP. And Amy, you want to take a closer look at the riding of Surrey-Guildford. Why is this riding on your radar?
Yeah, it's one of 3 ridings that, to the surprise of many, last election swung NDP. It was technically a new riding, but it was overlaid on what was considered quite a Liberal stronghold, long-standing voters for the Liberals there. This time, it could be one of the ridings that changes the election again. The candidates this time, we're looking at Gary Begg returning for the NDP. He has to prove, it wasn't just a one-time shot. He's going to want to widen that margin. This time we're looking at Dave Hans for the Liberals. He's not a career politician, so he's going to have the challenge of not having the same name recognition, but he's quite active in the community, particularly the South Asian community. I think that'll do well for him. For the Greens, we have Jody Murphy and Sam Kofalt for the Independents. Now, one of the things that became really important last election ended up being a lot of local issues. A lot of people think the NDP won because of their promise to eliminate local bridge tolls and portables for schools. This time it's the Liberals looking first at a local issue, and that's policing. They've promised a referendum on the issue.
Yeah, Mike Farnworth came out yesterday saying, look, policing is a local issue. I think Surrey's mayor also came out saying this was ridiculous, that the Liberals are using this to get votes. Your thoughts, Rob?
Neither party understands where voters are at on policing in Surrey. Doug McCallum, the mayor, came in, promised to get his own police force. The province wasn't sure whether people wanted that or Doug McCallum just won. And so the NDP has tried very hard over the last few years to not take a position on this, get out of the way and let Doug McCallum wear this. Right. And the parties are trying to do that in the election, but the Liberals see the opportunity to differentiate themselves by saying no. Now, whether voters actually care or not is going to be an interesting question.
It's funny, here on the island we look at our 14 ridings, but there are people that you could talk to in the political community and they say, hey, this election comes down to Surrey. It's all on Surrey. Do you buy into that?
Well, as Amy was saying, there's so many seats in Surrey that, yeah, and the seats can swing so quickly. I think it comes down in general to Metro Vancouver, and so there's Burnaby, Richmond, Surrey, Maple Ridge are key areas where if the NDP's numbers stay where they are, they will sweep many of those ridings and win ones that they've never won before.
That is Surrey-Guildford for you. If you are, well, of course you're watching right now, on the bottom of your screen we've been putting up what you think is the #1 election issue in this election. We have been putting up some of your answers. Unfortunately, we can't see them in the studio, but I'm sure they're good answers.
Probably COVID? That's probably
I imagine COVID's up
just a
there
guess.
for sure.
It's a wild guess.
Rob and Amy, to both of you, I want to say thank you for joining us tonight for the first edition of BC Poly Live. Both of them have agreed, and I hope it still stands, that you'll come back and join us next week. What we're going to do next week is at 6 o'clock we'll have a pre-debate show ahead of the leaders' debate, and then at 8 o'clock we'll come back and do a post-debate show and talk about some of the things that came up, discuss the winners and losers. Amy, thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
And Rob, thank you. You didn't have to go as far as Amy. She had to travel all the way to downtown Vancouver.
When do you start calling me legendary? That's my question.
Show #2.
Okay, all right.
We're not quite finished, folks. When we come back, we have a segment that we hope you enjoy. I know I've enjoyed it, watching it a couple of times in the last day or two. We're calling it You Don't Know Jack. We're back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Cam Drew from Thermoproof Windows and Doors, welcoming you to our new factory showroom on the highway in Cobble Hill. There's more room for manufacturing and more room to show you our windows, patio doors, interior, exterior doors, and this 12-foot wide bifold door. This is our new state-of-the-art paint booth where you can choose any color you desire. Come see us in Cobble Hill next to Rona. Thermoproof, built for life on the island.
On Vancouver Island, it's all good when it's island good. As islanders, we know what we have here is special, and we see it every time we shop. Make the choice to choose Island Good. Selecting local leads to increased production and greater sustainability, plus the dollars stay on Vancouver Island. Supporting island retailers, growers, producers, processors, and grocers. It's a win for everyone. It's all good when it's Island Good.
The diagnosis is for relentless weather conditions. The prognosis for your roof is not good. Recovery is on the way with the Great Canadian Roof Doctor. Bombler approved, the Roof Doctor can save you the cost of re-roofing. Let us inspect your roof and recommend an ideal treatment for speedy roof recovery. Find out if you're eligible for 0% financing. Google the Great Canadian Roof Doctor and book your appointment today. It's the perfect prescription for a weatherproof roof.
Please leave a message.
Hi, Mom. I just wanted to touch base as I haven't heard from you. I know you were pretty hesitant about moving, but I'm sure you've met some good people. Have you had a chance to get your hair done? Or at least get out? One more thing. Remember, you need to keep doing your stretches. I love you, Mom. Let us know you're okay. Please give me a call.
Freedom and weep.
Cherish at Central Park. Carefree living and peace of mind. Book your tour today.
We needed some support with my mother-in-law. She gets the regular tests done, and the doctor couldn't figure out why she wasn't doing so well. And we knew why. She wasn't taking her blister pack pills properly. Andrea is going to my mother-in-law's home every single morning to hand my mother-in-law her pills and watch her take them properly.
Heart at Home, enabling patients to live healthier lives at home for longer. Available from Heart Pharmacies.
Look! The new boots are here!
Oh, great.
Have a look around while I try some on.
Okay.
Reeker Footwear, more than just fashion. Special construction for maximum reflexibility gives you that barefoot feeling. Look and feel your best every day in Reeker.
Oh, you found something!
Yeah, I did.
Me too!
Ask about our frequent flyer plan. Walk in comfort with 7 locally owned island locations.
Wouldn't it be ironic if the New Democrats' greatest strength turned out to be their greatest weakness? That is, the real reason we're having this election now instead of next October when we were due to have it is because of the NDP's popularity, their chances of re-election. Leading up to the election call, their polling numbers were through the roof. They'd lived up to most of their promises from the last election, and people liked the way they'd handled themselves during the pandemic. There's also this whole rally round the flag thing like you get in wartime when people support their leaders in a crisis. John Horgan himself was riding high a month ago. A poll showed him to be the most popular premier in Canada, 69% approval rating. People generally liked the guy. They thought he was a straight shooter. He came across as relatable, the neighbor from across the street. Look, I get it. He once accidentally spilled a whole beer on my sister at a lacrosse game. Best day of my life. Meanwhile, Horgan's main opponent, Liberal leader Andrew Wilkinson, still needs a name tag after 2.5 years. The Green Party leader is still so well green that even here on the island, people aren't sure whether her name is First to Know or First to Now. By the way, it's First to Know, I think. But here's the deal. Horgan's image took a hit as soon as he called an election that seemed a lot more self-serving than it was necessary. Suddenly, a lot of people were mad at Mr. Good Neighbor. It was like finding Tom Hanks butting in line at BC Ferries. The question now is, how mad are those people? Mad enough to switch their vote or at least stay home on election day? Or are they going to get over it and move on? For when it comes down to it, the real question of this election, the one we're going to have to figure out over the next 2 weeks, is who's going to do the best job of getting us through this mess?
Was it legendary, Rob?
It was, but you can't stay mad at Tom Hanks. That face, you know, people love him.
Thank you, Jack Knox, and thank you for watching BC Poly Live. We will be back at 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 13th. We will set the stage for the Leaders' Debate. The Leaders' Debate runs from 6:30 to 8 o'clock, and then we will return at 8 o'clock to go over the debate, the winners and the losers, plus some analysis. Thank you for watching. Andy Neal will have your day's top stories at 10 o'clock. We want to once again thank Amy Smart, and thank Rob Shaw, and thank Jack Knox, and thank you for joining us. Good night.
Just over 2 weeks into the campaign, and ICBC is fast becoming a battleground in the BC election. The NDP announcing rebates, and today the Liberals say they would privatize the beleaguered corporation. More at 10.
IBEW members work and live in every community throughout Vancouver Island. Professional Red Seal electricians perform the safest quality work available and build important infrastructure that Islanders have come to depend upon. Power projects, highways, schools, and hospitals make all our lives better, at the same time training our apprentices by providing local youth with local jobs. When IBEW members go to